But I want to return to this topic that I started to talk about a few weeks ago, inclusivism. I missed a couple of weeks. I've been kind of sick, and I'm sorry I wasn't here. 3 weeks ago I was sick, then I was back for a week, and then I was sick again, and then I was out of town, so my apologies. I've been more sick in the last 2 months than I have been for the last 2 years, it seems, or more. I don't get sick that often, but both times, all 3 times in the last 6 weeks, I've been set on my back. So my apologies there, but I'm here again, and I now to kind of revisit a topic that I planned to revisit a couple of weeks ago, the week after my, what I would say was the kind of a awkward treatment of the issue of inclusivism. A few weeks ago, I did an opening commentary on this topic of inclusivism, which for you, this is a new concept, I'll explain it in just a moment. And I did what I think was a substandard job. All right, I think that happens sometimes to everybody, and happens to me too. I don't think my thoughts were well organized, and I was also a little bit angry, and I'll explain why in a moment. And when you feel strongly about something, and you're behind a microphone, and you have strong passions, but you're not really well organized in your thoughts, you sometimes say things you regret, and that's the way I feel about the commentary that I did. I think it was now about 3 weeks ago. First, I think I did a little bit of a hack job on the issue, and it's not that what I said was inaccurate. It was just disorganized and therefore not clear, and if it's not clear, it's probably not compelling. I also said that those who disagreed with me on the issue of inclusivism were fools, and that wasn't very nice. It was uncharacteristic of me, and I owe you guys an apology. I apologize to all who were listening. Some who agreed with me, I apologize to you because I was a bad example to you of how you should deal with these things, and I, of course, apologize to those who disagree because I shouldn't have called you a fool. Now, let me explain for a moment why I can get close to the edge on issues like this. And this isn't a rationalization, this isn't an excuse, but it is a reason. It helps you to understand. When I reflect on my own responses to issues like this one, inclusivism, I think that I'm motivated by a genuine and appropriate zeal for the truth. Now, I could be fooling myself, but I have to pause and think, what's going on here? And I think what's going on here is that I care about the truth. I care about the gospel. And when I think that the truth of the gospel is being undermined at its core, even though it's being done by Christians who are in some ways giving a nod to that gospel, but in other ways undermining it, then I get animated. I get argumentative. I even get angry. Now, that doesn't justify any kind of response in my anger, but it shows that I hope for most of you that if I get excessive sometimes, it's coming from a right place, even though the way I express myself isn't always the best. Now, I would like to repair the breach that I created last time over the next few weeks. Discussing this issue, and I want to give you a more careful biblical refutation of inclusivism. I hope that I've repaired the breach with those I've offended, and that's resolved with my apology, and it's sincere. But I think I need to do a better job of making clear the biblical perspective on this and why, as a Christian who takes the New Testament very seriously, and the Old as well, but it's the New Testament that is most crucial in this question. I have come to certain conclusions about this and am vigorous in my opposition to inclusivism, particularly in its more radical form, which I'll explain in just a moment. First, let me clarify what inclusivism is, and I want to contrast it with Pluralism, which is a view that is similar in some ways, but for important reasons, which you'll see in a moment, needs to be kept distinct from inclusivism. So there's a similarity between pluralism and inclusivism, but we want to be careful we don't overstate that, to be fair to the people who hold the various views. So let me clarify between those two issues. There are actually two kinds of pluralism. The first is so unremarkable, it only needs to be mentioned here because there are some who are listening, who are not listening carefully, and might mistake my rejection of pluralism as a denial of something completely obvious. That is, that the religious pluralism that I am concerned with is not simply the observation that there are lots of people who have lots of different religious views out there, and we ought to live in peace with them, even though they disagree with our own convictions about religion. I mean, that there is a religious pluralism in that sense, I don't see why anybody would take exception with that. So when I say I reject pluralism, I am not living with my head stuck in a hole somewhere, and I don't realize that there are other people who think differently than I do. Obviously, there are. And I have a cordial attitude towards them in principle. And I am fully willing to, in a sense, live side by side with them in peace and harmony, even though I may think that their religious beliefs are wrong.